This is the second session of the two for new employee orientation. If you recall, on Monday we talked just a little bit about logging in and logging out of Control, reviewed the home screen, talked about searching and finding different things in Control related to companies, estimates, and orders, reviewed a few of the user options that are more relevant to to individual users rather than global in nature. Did an overview of the activity manager, and then looked at some of the available resources that are available to everybody online. Today, our topics are we're going to start with process of adding companies in contacts. We'll create an estimate or two, and then convert those to orders. We'll walk through the process of changing statuses, both for orders and for estimates. We'll cover a little bit on the processing of payments related to orders. Just a quick point you in the right direction for the use of quick products and how those can be set up to suit your preferences. And then we'll finish the session today with just an overview of some of the print options, whether you're printing just general reports or printing invoices or printing estimates. Okay, I'm going to flip screens here and go to Control. You should be seeing Control, everybody. Linda, are you seeing Control now?
Yes, yes,
okay.
We are.
All right, so we're ready to go. Let me find my staple remover so I can flip my pages here just a second. Okay. We're going to talk first about adding companies and contacts. And you can do that by doing a new company here, which was probably the least likely way that you would do that, but more likely that you would come up to the new and then choose the downward arrow and choose new company. So you can either do that from the taskbar or from the one of the instruments in the on the home screen. Now you're going to notice some slight differences between the version of Control that I'm using, which is the latest one, 6.1, and perhaps some of the older ones in how required fields are identified. On my system, the yellow background, you may see that periodically through the session today, that's going to indicate required fields. Now you can make fields required yourself, but those will not be highlighted in the yellow. It's just an FYI. So if I want to create a company, I started off by going up to the taskbar and then choosing new company. And I'm just going to start pulling in a, let's put in the company, we call it ABC Test, okay? Now, I can choose the button over here for check name to see if it already exists. It's just a practice that might be handy so that you can avoid entry of duplicate company names. Now, a company is going to be, it's going to start off both as active and as a prospect, and it's going to remain that way until a company gets an estimate or order, and then it's going to become a client. You can also enter companies that are going to be vendor, but we're not going to really focus on that today. So the pricing, I'm going over here to the top right of the screen. The pricing level is going to assume that it's going to have the customer that you're adding is going to be, the term here is standard. Think of it as normal pricing. There are different pricing levels. Some of those can be above 100%, which is a premium, or they could actually be a below 100%, which in essence is a discount, okay? So you're either, if it's less than 100%, it's going to be a lower price than standard. And if the percentage is above 100%, then it's a premium. Now, setting up, adding these are, you can do it here. And this may be restricted from a privilege standpoint. I'm not sure how that works from within here, but just be aware that you may need to have your owner or manager, if you need to add pricing levels, that you can do that. Now, promotions are intended as a marketing tool, okay? And the promotion can be a percentage promotion. So in other words, a 10% off on that one that you see there, or it can be a fixed dollar value off. So if it's a fixed dollar value, it would go through the normal pricing of all the different line items, 1, 5, 10 different line items. And then if it's $1 off, there will be a line item added that would reflect the $25 off. If it's a percentage promotion, then it's going to reduce each of the line items by that percentage piece. Now, the intent of promotions is that a promotion would have a start time or start date and an end date. So that if you want to do a promotion during the month of November, you could create a promotion that might be $30 off, and that becomes valid so that you can select it beginning with the start date and ending with the end date. Promotions, however, are used in a more general sense that are discretionary in nature, and that's perfectly okay. But just keep in mind that the real intent is for marketing purposes, where you have a marketing campaign that's going to begin on a certain date and end on a certain date, and it's going to work in a certain way. That's the intent of the promotion. Pricing plans are a little bit more complex, and I'm not going to touch on them at all, but this is a special way of having a particular product or products and selected companies that when the two of those are matched up together in creating an estimate or creating an order, that the pricing will work differently. So pricing plans are unique. They're not heavily used, but they are extremely valuable. And if they're going to exist, in all likelihood, your owner or your manager will be the one that will set them up. You can see I've created some in here as illustrations here that I'm doing it based on an area discount concept. I'm doing it on a fixed margin. I'm doing it on a quantity basis. I'm doing one for vehicle wraps. So what that means is that I have created this pricing plan called area discounts. I've associated that with one or more products, and it can be associated with one or more customers. When the two of those intersect, and when you're creating an order, then that pricing plan will work. Coming on down, now let's just walk across some of these tabs. The company tab here, not too often, but think of a holding company, okay? You can have a holding company, and then you can have subsidiaries underneath that holding company. So you can create a company like this ABC test that I'm starting with, and it can be a subsidiary of other companies. It could be a subsidiary of this one. And if you do that, you would just select it, say okay, and now from a reporting standpoint, that this company here that we're adding would be a subsidiary of the one that I chose here. The primary salesperson is going to, this is the default that your owner or manager can change what the default salesperson is. Strongly encourage you to capture information related to the industry. There is a predefined list of all of these, and you can add to those if need be. The origin is, how did this customer come to you the first time? And again, there's a predefined list, but you can add to it. Did they come because of a cold call or direct email or Google or internet or newspaper ad? The region is not as frequently used, but basically it's where are you in the what time zone would be the most logical connection. Department location is optional. Web address, I would strongly encourage you to collect that. And then you come down within the company, you come down to the billing information, shipping information. Those are the two primary ones. So for billing purposes, what's the billing address? City, state, zip, and that kind of information. Shipping, it's going to assume that the shipping is the same as the billing, but if it's going to be different, then you can enter the billing address. Whether or not they're going to use POs, if it's required, you can set that. This is important, the tax class. The tax class that's called My Location is the combination of different taxes that apply to where your business is located. The system is going to assume that that is the tax class that's going to take effect. There are other tax classes that may exist, and there can be anywhere from 3 or 4 like you see here to many, many of them. Some of the folks in California and in Minnesota and a few other states have some very complicated and extensive tax class combinations. So a tax class is a combination of state tax. It may include a county tax. It may include a municipal tax, and it may include some special taxes for, for mass transit or things of that nature. So the system is going to assume that it's my location that it applies. And if it's different than that, then you choose which one is appropriate and whether or not this customer is taxable. And it's going to assume that they are. And if they're not, then they would be what they're going to be subject to as far as taxes are concerned. Like phone numbers and things of that nature. Down in the notes section, flags and other notes, you can put anything in there that you want. I use the equivalent of notes. If I had certain customers that I did not want to accept checks, I would just put in there, do not accept checks. I did that by having the note over here that's predefined. You can add to it, edit those, keep building that list if you want. Then if you want to apply that note, just select the one that you want and say add, and it will bring it across, okay? Moving on to contacts. Every customer has to have at least one contact. Notice again that the last name is mandatory. I strongly encourage you to always include the first name and the last name. And again, primary purpose for that is for marketing purposes of marketing. So every customer that you add has to have a primary contact, and they have to have a billing contact. They can be the same person. So if you're adding a company and one contact, by definition, they're going to be both the primary and the billing contact. If they have 2, 3, 4 or more contacts, one will be the primary, one will be the billing. They can be the same, but they don't need to be, and others can be neither of those. The billing is that contact that it's used in the context of when you're creating an estimate or an invoice. The system is going to assume that it's the primary contact that's making that's placing the order or requesting the estimate. Other information down there: the position. The primary salesperson is going to assume that that it's the same as the company. Doesn't need to be. You can collect birthday information if you want. Always select, capture as many emails as you can for all of the contacts, and the objective there is to enhance your marketing capabilities at a future time. Phone numbers, they can have different billing address if it's different than the company. They can have different shipping address if it's different than the company's, and so on. So here we've gone through the general tab, shipping. You can put in shipping information here, carriers and things of that nature. You can add notes, to the contact, and again, you can have as many different contacts in here as you want. So I'm going to put in my name here, and now we're done with the contacts. The financial tab is really important. The system is always going to assume that they are a cash customer. And what that means is that the expectation when they place an order that they are expected to pay the value of the invoice in whole or in part. Typically 50% asking at the time the order is placed. The cash customer affects the use of accounts receivable, and it's more of a, I see it more as a discipline to always ask the customer, how are you going to pay for this order today? Now, over here on the left, you can grant credit privileges to the customer and give them the ability to pay on a net 15 basis, a net 30 basis, or you can add to that list. What this says, in conjunction with having a net 15 or net 30, that you're going to allow them to have purchases up to $500, for example, without, and if the system knows that there is a balance of 500 or less, it's not going to prompt you and remind you that, hey, they have like outstanding receivables in excess of $500, and if so, it's going to warn you, and you will have to give it permission, give the system permission to proceed. It's not going to prevent you, but it's going to warn you. I had a practice in my business of having a credit application form. If someone wanted a net 15 or net 30 or net 45 days, I expected them to fill out a credit application. We posted that in the system. We assigned a credit value, and then at minimum, I put in the date that was approved, and then I followed up when that was going to expire and asked for a new application. If the customer overpays an invoice, say you had a customer that had an order of $150, and for some reason the value of that order decreased to $125 for some reason. Maybe you changed the size or you changed the quantity, but they had paid in full for the $150. When that order is adjusted downward to $125, for example, or they simply overpaid, then you're going to see a credit balance figure here. It might be $25, might be $50, might be $500. Now, if they have a credit balance and a new order is being created, the system will prompt you to that there is a credit balance available, and will ask if you want to apply that credit in whole or in part, to the next order. This is a kind of a good pause here to see if we have any questions on adding customers. I'm going to go ahead and save that, and I got some fields that I didn't finish here. Just a second.
Paul, we do have 2 questions.
Okay.
Okay, Tracy, I'm going to unmute you. Your question is, can the promotion tab be used per order and not just by company?
Correct.
If it's assigned at the company level, then it's going to assume that you're going to use that promotion for that company going forward. Mm-hmm. But on an order-by-order basis, you can also select a promotion for just that one order.
Okay, and it doesn't affect everything for that customer.
No.
Okay, perfect.
No. Only if you assign it to the customer, it's always going to start assuming that you're going to use that promotion. But you can always override that by removing the promotion when you're creating a specific order for that same company.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yes, sir.
Does that make sense? Okay. Anything else?
We have another question from Crystal. And Crystal, mm-hmm. I will unmute you. And the question is, there's not an add button for payment terms. Where would you go to add that?
Payment terms.
Under the finance.
Okay,
tab.
Under the finance tab. You're probably going to have administrative rights to do that.
It's accounting setup.
Thank you, Linda. Right here. You would have to have privileges to come into setup, accounting setup, and then on the left-hand column, down towards the bottom, is payment terms. So if you're going to add a payment term to this list, you would come over to the far right, select New, and enter the name that you want the payment term to be, what kind of a grace period, whether it's 15 days, 30 days, 45 days, what kind of monthly interest rate, if any, that you want to assign. You can put in messages for that invoice. This is a language that would be used for 0 to 30 days. If they have orders that are current between 0 and 30, a different message if they're going to be from 31 to 60, 61 to 90, and over 90 days. So it's more than just the payment terms. It's how the different accounts receivable reports are going to operate relative to this payment term. So again, it's in setup, accounting setup, payment terms, and you'd have to have administrative rights to do that.
Okay.
Okay? Does that make sense?
Yep.
All right.
Are there any other questions?
If not, I'm going to cancel this so that I can keep moving on here just a little bit quicker.
There aren't any other questions, Paul.
All right. All right, now let's switch gears, and we're going to create an estimate and then go from there. Again, the most likely way that you're going to do that is up here in the taskbar and say new and estimate. You can also do it from the navigation instrument on the home screen. If this is the home screen that you're using, you've got the new estimate here. More than likely, you're going to do it under new in the taskbar and then new estimate. All right, now the first thing that's going to go on here is who are you creating this estimate for? And I'm going to draw analogies as I'm going along between doing a new estimate and a new order, because so many of the things that I'm going to comment on are identical between the two, okay? So obviously the first thing that you have to do is who are you going to do this for? If it is a new customer that doesn't exist, then you can select the new company and go back and go through the same process of adding a new company that we just talked about. If it's an existing customer, just simply start typing the name of the customer that you're interested in, and it will search ahead and find it, okay? Notice that the description field is mandatory. And put in the description. Here's where you can select the pricing level if you want to, and that is going to be for this. So if you chose the company, they had a pricing level, it's already going to be there, but this is where you would override it. Going back to the first question that we had relative to promotions, if the test company had a promotion pre-assigned to it, this is where you can come in and say, no, I want it to use that one, okay? I'm going to delete that line item. I still leave it there. So anyway, the company is required, the description's required, pricing levels, promotions, you can override or leave them the same for what they might be for the company. Now, once you've done that, now it's a matter of adding as many different line items as you choose. So let's do a digital print, just a real quick one. I'm going to use a roll print. I'm going to do one. I'm going to do a 4-foot by 10-foot banner. I could have also entered those in inches. I'm going to use the roll printer. I'm going to choose the resolution that I want. I want to choose the material that I want. I'm going to come over here and I'm going to do some lamination to it. And then I'm going to say, okay, I don't want to get bogged down in specifics. So what you're going to see now is that here's the promotion that we added, the 25 bucks. So it's showing in the discount column, and it's in red. Then this is the digital print, laminated. Here's the print piece of it, and here's the lamination piece of it, okay? I can continue on and add a third, a fourth, a fifth, a sixth. I've had orders of upwards of 30 different line items. So there's really no limit to the number. Let me just pause here. I want to make sure that I'm not missing anything here. Let's do something here that, let's say that I want this digital print. Better than that, I want the promotion. I want it to appear last. So up here in this row here, you have move up and move down. So if I want to move this line item down, it's now, I've got the parent and the child and then I've moved the promotion down. Notice that the child, the way the child works is that the value of that child, from a customer's perspective, it's going to be rolled up into the price, in this case, of the digital print. So you see the $336.49 for the digital print, another $80 for the for the lamination side, for a total of $216, which is easy to see in this example. The discount is going to roll that up, and that's what you're seeing up here at the top. Now, I can take if I wanted that to be a parent, I can do that. Okay, I can. I'm getting thrown a curveball here. The promote is not. Let me do it this way. If I want this one to be demoted so that they can't see it, I can choose to demote, and now it is one line item with the lamination and the promotion. So the customer, in all likelihood, when you present the order to them, or the estimate to them, they're going to see one line item that's going to appear as the digital print with the lamination and with the promotion absorbed up in the other one, in the primary. I could take this one and I can clone it, and it's going to clone line 1 in 1A. So if this one, for whatever reason, I wanted to do 10 of them, now it's started with this one. So I've got the digital print now with a quantity of 10, the lamination for a quantity of 10 there, okay? So you can clone items, you can move them up and move them down, you can make them a parent item, you can make them a child item by using the demote and the promote buttons. Now, let me change the pages on my notes here just a second. One of the things that I want to just draw your attention to, that without actually going down that path, there is a very, very good feature in Control relative to estimates that is, in my judgment, is very powerful. Notice at the very, very bottom of the screen, where I'm wiggling the mouse, you see the words Variation 1. If you have a customer that's requesting a quote from you with different quantities, use of different materials, things of that nature, where they're going to make a choice, this variation can be extremely, extremely powerful in terms of presenting the customer a very professional looking estimate, okay? Now, with that variation, I can come over here and say, I want to rename that. I want to give it a, I just want to call it a quantity 1 banner, okay? Now, I can take this that we just did, and I can clone it. That will clone these lines, and I'm going to rename this one. to read quantity 10. And we'll get rid of the word clone. Now, I'm going to go back to quantity 1, and I'm going to select that line item, and I'm going to delete it. I'm going to go now to quantity 10, and I'm going to delete line 1. Hope I didn't get my wires crossed and delete the wrong one. There's 216. Okay, that's good. So now what we've got is one estimate under something called variation 1 for a quantity 1 banner. Another variation for a quantity of 10. It could be different materials. It could be different combination of products. Now, I'm going to stop at that point, and we'll see later what that looks like and how it is such a wonderful feature, from a day-to-day use. So I've done the company, the line items, the company. I'm going to go to the totals tab. It's pre-assigned for the salesperson. You'll put a due date in here. Put in Saturday, whether or not there's a purchase order required, and that's all I want to do. You can override the taxes here if you need to. Payments aren't necessary, so let's stop at that point. Now, I want to save that from here. Now, I can save that if I started as if I was going to create an estimate, which is what I did. It's going to assume that you're going to save it as an estimate. But I could just as well have had the customer change their mind and say, no, let's go forward with it. So you would start under the premise that you were doing an estimate, change their mind, and save it as an order. It can be saved as a recurring order. So let's just keep it simple and say we're going to save it as an estimate. Now, this is all done, okay? Now, if I want to see what that looks like, I'm just going to quickly do this because I want to show you the how the variation appears and what I think is so cool about that. And then we're going to take the next step and we're actually going to convert that to an order. Okay, so notice up here, it's estimate number 531. This is the option, the first option that I'm presenting the customer, a quantity of 1. And here they see the digital print and they see the $25 promotion. The second variation, I just click the second page, the same estimate number, but now this one I'm presenting them is the quantity of 10. There's the promotion for quantity of 10 with $25 off, and the digital prints, for 10 of them is shown there. And I could then print that. I could email it. We'll talk about those print options. But I wanted to show you the context of the use of variations. And now I'm going to close this, and we're going to pretend that 2 or 3, 4 days has gone by. Okay. So first, if I want to convert that, I could explore orders, or explore estimates, I'm sorry. This is the one that I just created, okay? So it's webinars, test company, and this is the description. So if I want to convert that to an order, I can do so by I can open it by double clicking and open it. That would give me the opportunity to edit, to add to subtract from the estimate. and then resave it, or begin going down the path of making it an order. I am now going to do a right mouse click and say I want to convert that estimate to an order. Now there's some very important concepts that we want to talk about here, okay? First of all, it's asking me to confirm that that's what I want, and it's telling me that they have outstanding balances, and is it okay to proceed? So I'm going to say yes. This is the next one. It's very, very important. If you want the line items to be locked so that they can't be edited without privileges, then you'd put a check mark there. If you want to be able to edit the order before it gets saved as an order, you'd put a check mark on it, or both of them. So I'm going to leave both of those off. Now it simply wanted me to confirm that that's what I want to do. So I'm doing that, and it's doing its thing. Now, this is the part that's unique about estimates and the use of variations. Now I'm being told that there are two active variations, and I have to choose which one I want. I can choose the one for quantity 1 that we created, or the one for quantity 10 that I created. Let's do that one. So now I've chosen it. And it's creating the order. And would I like to depose the deposit? I'm going to say no. Normally you would ask them how are they going to pay. And now I am, I've got the order. It's got an order number that's assigned to it, and it's ready to, to go. You can print the invoice, but notice here in this top left, I'm again on version 6.1, and it introduces a concept called associated orders, and it's telling me that this invoice number 1013 came from estimate number 531. And if I wanted to review what that 531 looked like, I could simply select it. And now I got the order here, and I got the estimate here. Let's look at the estimate. It's showing me that I have the two variations. Notice that the one that we converted is now in what they call the active position. In other words, it appears first. And this estimate is now locked. You can't edit it or make any changes, okay? So you can use the associated orders to kind of see where something came from and quickly review that. Now, that leads us now to close this down. And we're going to talk about changing statuses in both for estimates and orders. But I want to stop and see if we have any questions on the conversion of estimates to orders or the variations. I might add that variations is an optional feature, and it has to be activated in order for you to do that.
Doesn't look like we have any questions, Paul.
Okay, so now let's talk about statuses. Estimates have statuses. Orders have statuses. They are different. I'm going to do exploring orders, and then I'm going to do exploring estimates, so I can ping pong back and forth. Let's start with estimates. This is the status column, and I'm telling the system that I want to look at all of the estimates that are in these different kinds of statuses that are related to estimates. Pending is where life begins. If it's been converted, it's going to show that it's been converted. If I've deliberately marked it lost or voided, I can select one here. I can right click and I can say mark it as lost, or I can say void it. So estimates have 4 statuses. It's going to begin life is pending. Hopefully it's going to get converted to an order, but you could also mark it as lost or mark it as voided. Lost, the intent of lost is that the customer has advised you that they're not going forward with the particular project. So if that is the case, we would say mark it as lost. Is that what we want? Yes. And now you can have a choice of, let's say that we lost the opportunity, okay? So it's lost is the status. Now we need to introduce a second context or concept that's related to the statuses of estimates. So you got status and you have station. Station is a further subdivision of the statuses. So if we look at this one, the number 528, it's in a pending status, and we've determined that it is a hot prospect. We've concluded that this one is probably a cold prospect, okay? So if you want to change the station, you can come up here. I did a right mouse click on number 527, and I can say I want to change the station within pending to I want to change it to that they expect to make a decision next week. Okay? So statuses is where the life begins, and the different levels that it can go through as it progresses along. Within each of those statuses is the concept of stations. Now, if we look at orders, you have the same exact concept. Here's the statuses. The life cycle of an order begins in work in process. When the work has been completed and it's ready to be picked up, or it's ready to be installed, or it's ready to be delivered, you would mark it as built. If the customer has received the finished goods, that's the third level of status called sale. That's when sales taxes are triggered and the taxes would be due, and that's when the various products would be distributed in what flows to your accounting system, for sales. So WIP and built are at the early stages. There's no sales tax liability for either of those at this juncture. They can post payments. If there's a payment applied, then there's a customer deposit that has to be managed. When the customer gets the finished goods, then it's a sale. If the actual order shows sale, that means, and that's what you see over here, that means that they owe you money. They haven't paid in full. The status of closed says that they've got the finished goods, you have all of your money, you're both happy, okay? Voided, if you have an order that gets created, and for some reason the customer says, hey, we're going to stop, and you need to void the order, then you can deliberately void. So if we come in here and say that we're going to change the status, I'm not handling the voided right. Just a second. I'm going to open it. Now I could void it and give it a reason. And this says that it has payments applied. This is a perfect example of that customer credit that I talked about when we're talking about customers, adding the customer. So the question is, there are payments that have been applied, and would you like to void the payments first? If I say yes, then that payment will be reversed, meaning that you're going to have to refund the money back to the customer. If I say no, that means that the value of that payment is going to become a customer credit, and now the status of it shows that it's been voided. And if we look at the company, notice that they have a credit balance. Okay? I've done a lot of playing around with this and to build the credit that high. So statuses are not unique to the estimates, but they have their own. Each within a status, you have multiple stations. So if I want to change the station, I can right here. Within WIP, which is where it is, these are the stations that have been predefined, and these can be customized. Okay, so if it's in the vinyl department, now that's where that's going to show. This is very, very, very important concept because it's going to help in the production management process of getting things flowing through the shop. So this was in the vinyl department, this one was in the printing department, this one is ready to be delivered. So all of the different statuses have multiple stations that apply. Okay, let me see if there's anything more.
Paul, we do have a question.
Okay, I was just right at the breaking point. Okay, shoot.
All right, let me unmute Jessica. And the question is, what is the difference of built from WIP again?
Okay, WIP means that you are working on the project. It's not finished. You may be waiting for materials to come. You may be waiting for the final artwork to be approved. So work is in, just like the initials imply, work is in process. Built, the intent of built is that the work is completed. The sign or signs are made, but they are not in the possession of the customer. So they're built and ready to be delivered, they're ready to be picked up, they're ready to be installed. Where sale means that the customer has received the finished goods, either because they were installed, because they came and picked them up, or they were delivered. So the subtle difference between WIP and built is that work in process means that you're working on it. Built implies that you are finished with the work, perhaps with the exception of it actually being delivered, or actually being delivered, or actually being installed. Now, from a management standpoint, if it's in work, in process, now you need to be sensitive to the stations, because you want to make sure that that is progressing through the production process, and you use the stations to help with that. If it's in built, that is a kind of a different ball game, because now you're managing to, hey, when is this customer going to come and pick it up? When does it need to be delivered? When does it need to be installed? So it's the whip and built are different. They're related, but they're different. Work in process. You're working on it. Built. You basically have finished the work. Does that make sense? Does that help?
Jessica, does that answer your question? Okay.
Okay. Now I'm going to go to payments. I'm going to choose the payments up here.
1 second, Paul. We do have another question.
All right.
Our question is from Dean, and let me just unmute you, Dean. And the question is, how do you get estimates to change color when they have surpassed their due date?
I've never done that.
I think it's hard-coded in the back in a setting.
Yeah. You're talking about color coding on the, as you see it in Explorer. Let's look here. It's system setup and
estimate options.
Estimate options.
That one we'll have to get back because
I am not sure. Yes, I know I've seen the color schemes, but quite frankly, I can't remember where it was.
Dean, I'll make a note, and then we'll get an answer.
Yeah, I honestly don't know. Okay, payments. So if you're going to post payments, you're going to go to the payment screen. Okay. First of all, you're either going to select the company by either typing the company's name in here, or you're going to do a search, or you can apply it and just enter the invoice number. Okay. Now I'm going to try to kill two birds with one stone here. Okay. I'm going to choose order number, but I'm going to choose the hourglass. If you recall, we had the notion of associated orders, which is unique to 6.1. Okay. Earlier versions didn't have it. So I am going to choose 1210, and notice the power. This is the primary order with invoice numbers 10-6, 8, 9, 11, and 12, all associated with number 1012. If I had chosen an order that was not associated, it picked up that order. Okay. So if I'm doing it, this is just really, really key concept, and one that I think has tremendous power. And that's the associated order. So I can put in the primary, and then I can say I'm going to pay for that one, and I'm going to pay for that one. Okay? So this is the total amount that's due, and this is the amount that's left, and there's no remaining balance. Now I am going to choose how I'm going to pay for that. Here is one that says, hey, this guy has a $1,200 credit. I can apply it. I can pay it in form of cash or check. I can handle it in a master or in an ACH context. Now, this is important here. I'm going to slide this across. MasterCard and Visa applied manually, Amex manually, Discover manually, or it's going to be a donation. Now, if you're using the internal automated payment mechanism where they're presented a choice, like on the invoice where they can click that I'm going to pay it by check, or I'm going to pay it by ACH, or I'm going to pay it electronically, then the list of these will look different here, okay? So if it's going to be cash or a check, just put in the check number and any other notes that you want to add. And then record the payment. And now it was processed. Now, if the payment, if you're using the online pay mechanism and the payment came through, it's going to flow through, and then you would see it get posted. If you're not using the auto pay and they send you a check, or they're standing in front of you and they want to pay for it, then you would choose the appropriate the appropriate method. Okay. This is a very, very quick view of payment processing, but so I wanted to really draw your attention to how the concept of associated orders, fits into to the concept. Now, next thing I wanted to look at was quick products. You may or may not find this of interest and value. You can customize this list, to suit your preferences. These are just products that are common that you want to apply to yourself. Now, if you want to customize that, you can go to Setup and Pricing and All Pricing. Again, you're probably going to have privileges to do this. Now, this is where you can customize that list to suit your preferences. You can delete what's there, change what's there, add new ones, and on down the line. So it's just a quick way to get those common products that you want, so that they're more prevalent. Now, to wrap up our discussion today, I want to talk about payments, or not payments, but printing. There are similarities between estimates and orders and reports, but there are differences as well. So let's look at the three different flavors, okay? Anytime you are going to print something, you get the report criteria, the menu here, okay? And it's going to show what the printer is. If there is email information, it could possibly be pre-populated. If you want to add that, just enter the email address if it doesn't already populate. You can save this. This is the path where it's going to get saved. The name of the file that it's going to be, not the name, yeah, the name, and also the type of file. So it's a PDF file with this name. There are options. The options will be different for all of the various reports, all of the invoices versus the orders, what the date range is that you can select all of these, and then you can ultimately either preview it on the screen, send it directly to a printer, email it to the client, or save it within the system. So you got a set of parameters that are common, similar, but yet have differences between reports, estimates, and orders. Estimates, let's do that one, and we'll say we're going to print it using that template. You're going to see the same kind of thing. You got the preview, you got the printer, you got the email. If the estimate contact had an email, it would have been pre-populated here. If you need to add it, just say show detail, then you can enter the email address. If you're going to save it, this will be pre-populated, and then you can or you can save it. Now, very quickly, you got the concept of merge fields. So if you don't like this name, or I'm sorry, if you don't like this name, I could customize that by putting the cursor after the name, go to the merge fields, and I could add the customer's name. I could have added the estimate number. I could have added any number of things, okay? And I can browse and change the path if necessary. Now, options. These are unique for this particular estimate template. If there are if you use different estimate template, the options will vary slightly, but they will also be different than orders. So this basically influences what does and does not print. So I want to enable variations so the customer can see the variations. I want to hide a line item description. I want the totals to print, and so on and so forth. I want or don't want the child items to print. Okay? And then you can do the same thing. You can preview, you can print, you can email, you can save, etc. And then lastly, orders, very similar concept. And do a print. Same concept as far as these first 3 or 4. Preview, the printer, the email. Again, if the contact has an email, it's going to populate. You can show detail to change that. You can use merge fields to alter how it appears. If you're going to save it, you can alter the name here. And what I didn't mention on the other is that if I make a change here by putting the merge field in, and I want to keep that as my default, add the merge field. Let's do that here. Add the order. Let's do order number. Now, if I'm going to print and save the email, save the estimate as a PDF, and I want it to be have the order number in it, and I want that to be my default. Right above the cancel button, you see save these settings, and if I choose that, then the change that I made in the save, the change that I made in the email, the change that I made in the options, is going to become my default. Now, in the case of the of orders, the options are, there are similarities, there are the estimates, but there are differences. And then when you're all done selecting the printer, the email options, the save options, the different things, then you can preview, print, email, or save. This was the quick overview of the printing concepts. Any questions here? I apologize that we've run about 10 minutes or so over. Any last minute questions?
No questions, Paul.
If not, all right. Thank you, everybody, very much. 2 weeks from now, is the next, what we call the SEER skills schedule. And now that topic is a little bit more advanced. We'll be focusing on a little bit more exploring of the use of Explorer in the calendar and some other related topics. So have a good week, the rest of the week, and a good weekend, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.